You weren't recording.
Should I introduce the meeting again?
Yeah, you'll have to once the recording gets started. Okay, now we're recording. Introduce again. Yes.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. It's February 23rd, 2021. This is the Sunshine Ordinance Task Force Compliance and Amendments Committee meeting. Cheryl, if you could please read the remote access information.
Okay. Remote access to information and participation. In accordance with Governor Newsom's Executive Order N 3320 declaring a state of emergency regarding the COVID-19 outbreak, and Mayor London and Breed's proclamation declaring a local emergency issued on February 25, 2020, including the guidance for gatherings issued by the San Francisco Department of Public Health officer, aggressive directives were issued to reduce the spread of COVID-19. On March 17, 2020, the Board of Supervisors authorized their board and committee meetings to convene remotely via Microsoft Teams and will allow remote public comment via video conference. Members of the public may participate by phone or may submit their comments by email to cheryl.leger@sfgov.org. All comments received will be made a part of the official record. The Sunshine Ordinance Task Force agendas and their associated documents are available at sfbos.org/sunshine. As the COVID-19 disease progresses, please visit the Sunshine Ordinance Task Force website regularly to be updated on the current situation as it affects the legislative process. If you could read meeting decorum.
Yes, sorry, I was on mute. Our statement on meeting decorum. Any member of the Sunshine Ordinance Task Force may call for decorum due to disorderly conduct of meeting participants. Persons who engage in threatening and or menacing behavior will be asked to leave. I just want to reiterate one more time, thanks for everyone for joining us by phone. We ask that if you are not speaking, if you could put yourselves on mute by pressing *6. You can do the same thing to unmute yourself. The administrators may need to mute everyone on occasion to deal with feedback on the recording. So if you think that if you are trying to speak and cannot be heard, try pressing *6 again. We will do our best to give enough time when we are opening things up for public comment. Thank you. So Cheryl, if you could read the first item, please.
Item number 1, call to order, roll call and agenda changes. Roll call. Member Neighbors.
Here.
Member Neighbors present. Member Wong.
Here.
Member Wong present. Chair LaHood.
Present.
Chair LaHood present. We have a quorum. We do have agenda changes to items number 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and 13 will not be heard tonight. The petitioner has withdrawn their complaint.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any other members, any other agenda changes? Seeing none, please call the next item.
Second. Item number 2, approval of the January 26, 2021 Compliance and Amendments Committee meeting minutes. Does anybody have any changes, or I have a copy of the minutes here?
I don't have any changes. Member Neighbors, I know you weren't at the last meeting. Member Wong, do you have any changes?
I do not.
Okay. We will open this up for public comment on the minutes only. Does any members of the public have comments on the minutes?
Yes, please.
One moment. Go ahead, speaker.
Yes, this is Peter Warfield, Executive Director of Library Users Association. We can be reached at libraryusers2004@yahoo.com and also at P.O. Box 170544, San Francisco, California 94117. So we're talking about the January well, sorry, which minutes are we talking about now?
The January 2021 Compliance and Amendments Committee meeting minutes.
Okay.
It's item number 2.
January 26th, 2021, right?
Correct.
Let me just say that I am disappointed by the minutes. They don't seem to be very informative about what people have said, and certainly what I said. On general public comment, for example, basically what I said was what I said prior to the start of this meeting, which is that not even how to make yourself known as somebody who wants to make public comment is shown on your agenda. There's nothing on your agenda today, and there wasn't then, to show you how to function as a member of the public with rights to make public comment. So the first sentence of public comment, Peter Warfield, on item 3 of January 26th, Peter Warfield noted that he was unable to mute, unmute, or find indications as to what to do if you want to speak on agenda description. No, I was talking about if you want to speak at the meeting, there's no indication on the agenda of how to do it. For example, to mute and unmute. This just seems garbled and unclear. Who wants to talk about agenda description? It doesn't make sense to me. So I think that the minutes could be a great deal more informative as to what somebody said. And what I said then and what I said today.
30 seconds, sir.
Thank you. Fairly straightforward. Your agenda lacks basic information for the public as to how to attend and exercise your rights at a public meeting of this body when it is held remotely as it is now. Basics are left out and need to be provided. Thank you.
Are there any other members of the public wishing to make public comment on the minutes from the January meeting?
Yes, anonymous, please.
One
Hello?
moment. When the
Go
timer
ahead.
is ready, you'll be given a signal.
You can go. Go ahead.
Thank you very much. I'll speak about general minutes issues and general public comment, but there's one correction that needs to be made on this particular minutes, which is item 2, last sentence from anonymous public comment. So right now it says anonymous stated that in file number 20066, the request was for audio recordings held under Penal Code 832.7b6. No, that's what I was correcting. In fact, that's what was wrong in the December 22nd Compliance and Amendment Committee meeting minutes. What it should say is anonymous stated that in file number 20066, the request was for audio recordings and withholdings under Penal Code 832.7b6. There are two separate issues, and that was actually the correction I was trying to make in that correction in item 2. Thank you.
Are there any other members of the public wishing to make comment on the minutes from January? Seeing none, members, how do you propose that we proceed?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes pending these small corrections.
Seconded.
Okay. I think that sounds good. Please, if we could please call a roll on this motion.
Item number 2, approval of the minutes. Member Wong.
Aye.
I'm sorry, Member Wong. Okay. Member Neighbors.
Aye.
Member Neighbors, aye. Chair LaHood.
Aye, and it's approval pending these small corrections.
These changes. Yes.
Yeah.
Approval pending the changes.
Thank you.
Okay. It is just about 5 o'clock. It's 10 till. Did we want to hear item 4 and then do public comment?
I thought that requirement was only for the full task force hearings.
Okay. Time for, okay, item number 3, public comment. Members of the public may address the committee on matters that are within the committee's jurisdiction but not on today's agenda.
Are there any members of the public wishing to make public comment on matters not on today's agenda?
Yes, anonymous, please.
Okay, we're gonna create a line. Anonymous, you're first in line. Is there
Whoa,
any?
yes, please.
Okay, second speaker, you're second in line. Is there anyone else who would like to make public comment today on items not on the agenda?
Sounds like we only have 2 speakers.
Okay, it sounds like we have 2 speakers. If anyone changes their mind after we get past the second speaker, I will put out another call. Cheryl will give you the signal when she is ready with the timer. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anonymous, are you ready?
Yes, I am.
Okay, go ahead.
Thank you very much. So first of all, thank you to the chair for doing that lining up. That's really helpful. I hope the full task force does it as well. With regards to minutes, one thing that I might generally suggest is that because these minutes are eventually copied into our orders of determination and form the administrative record if we ever have to go to court, I would suggest that the ideas from the other members who aren't the chair also get included in the minutes, even if it's just one sentence. Sometimes only Chair Wolf's comments are included, but the other members should be as well. And I wanted to tell you one good news about Sunshine. So yesterday I forced the release of a huge cache of criminal city contractor Walter Wong's text messages with allegedly corrupt city officials. These had been illegally withheld by the city since July 2020, and yesterday they admitted it and released the records. And it took over half a year of unrelenting pressure on the supervisor of records, Dennis Herrera, to get these released. So if you ever wonder why does Anonymous file all these complaints and all these petitions, it's because I specifically go after the types of records city officials try to unlawfully hide. So when they come here and tell you that they've released 1,000 pages to someone, it doesn't really matter if the one page they don't release is what is newsworthy or politically sensitive, or is the page that shows official misconduct. And that's why the law must be implemented fully and for everyone in every request in every department. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Speaker. Second speaker, you'll get the signal when the timer is ready. Please wait.
I'm waiting for the timer.
Yes, I'm just about to start it. Mr. Warfield, are you ready to speak?
I am.
Go ahead, sir.
This is Peter Warfield, Executive Director of Library Users Association, and would appreciate that being in the minutes. We can be reached at libraryusers2004@yahoo.com or by mail, U.S. Postal Service, P.O. Box 170544, San Francisco, California 94117. I believe the previous speaker, Anonymous, said something important, and that is that all of the open government laws should be complied with strictly. I have sometimes heard laws or violations being called technical violations and that sort of thing, and I think that it's important that all of the laws be followed properly and in good faith and correctly at all times, and that you, as the Sunshine Ordinance Task Force members, are part of helping to make that happen by being particular and strict about following the law. Years ago, there was discussion about when meetings of the Sunshine Task Force should occur. And after repeated reminders that the original Sunshine Task Force did not meet on Mondays because the supervisors met Mondays, but now they were meeting on Tuesday, it was agreed that the Sunshine Task Force would not have its meetings on the same day as the Board of Supervisors meeting, which is happening at this very moment. So for people who have any kind of civic mind, or certainly anybody who wants to participate through making public comment, having this meeting at the same time any Sunshine Task Force meeting at the same time as the primary Board of Supervisors meeting, I think, is very contrary to really being effective, and shouldn't happen. And I think that Sunshine meetings should not happen when the Board of Supervisors is meeting, particularly when the main body is meeting. As I said previously, the star 6.
30 seconds, sir.
Star 6 and other things, I think I'm being cut 3 seconds short. Star 6 is not on your agenda as a way to indicate that you want to make public comment. If you don't put it up there, then could it be star 3, which is another system, or star 1, or so on. Finally, if you do talk about things being withdrawn, it would be very helpful if you'd say what items 8 through 13 are, because otherwise I'm sitting here trying to run through rapidly what's going on.
Your time is up,
what
sir.
Are they, and it would be helpful to describe the items. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll put out one more call for public comment. Are there any other members of the public who would like to make public comment on items not on today's agenda? Seeing none, public comment is closed. Commenters, thank you for sharing your thoughts with us. Cheryl, if we could please have the next item.
Item number 4, file number 19103, hearing on the status of the order of determination. Complaint filed by Anonymous against Mayor London Breed, Hank Heckel, and the Office of the Mayor for violating Administrative Code Sections 6726 and 27 by failing to keep withholdings to a minimum and failing to provide justifications for withholding.
Thank you. I'd like to ask, do we have both the petitioner and the respondent here today?
Petitioner is present.
Is the respondent or other representative here today?
Yes, this is Hank Heckel from the mayor's office. I'm present. You can hear me.
Great, thank you. We can hear you. So just to bring everyone up to, I just muted myself just to bring everyone up to speed. This is about compliance on an order of determination that was made. This is related to a request for the mayor's Prop G or forward-looking calendars. The task force found in favor of the petitioner that the mayor's office was not providing responsive records in a timely and complete manner with annotated redactions. We are here for monitoring. So I would like to ask the petitioner, have you received what you requested?
No, but can I explain a little more detail? Because I believe you have slightly mischaracterized the summary of what you found. Am I allowed to speak?
Yeah, you can have you can explain it briefly.
Okay.
Are we, before you begin, sir, are we using timers? Is he getting 5 minutes?
This is about,
okay, no timers.
this is about compliance, but I ask just to keep things moving if you could speak briefly. Thank you.
Sure. So what the 6726 violation that you found in your order of determination is not about timely and complete, and it's about the fact that they withheld the entire record instead of redacting only the minimum portion of it and disclosing it. That was what your order was there, and you did not, the full task force, as it says in the OD, didn't decide which parts of the future calendars should be redacted. In fact, I believe the order says this committee is going to review that. So they have done 2 things since you issued your order. They re-released the originally requested October 2019 mayoral calendars, which were at the time of the request in the future, but obviously are no longer right now. But they didn't actually comply with my request in that sense because I asked for individual calendar entries. They have provided a summary. I hope they're not actually disputing this. I think they just haven't done it. And they do need to do it since they're supposed to comply with my request when you issue an order of determination. They have also stated, and they have provided a sample of this to the task force, that how they're going to produce these future calendars, which are actually still in the future, is by giving records 1 week at a time and redacting the location, date, and time. So you can't know which day it is. And so what my argument is since the thing they're supposed to be exempting, redacting, is, quote, records of security procedures of a local police agency, that's Government Code 6254F, I would ask you to determine whether the date and time is actually still exempt. I'm okay with them redacting the location, but they're arguing that they also want to withhold date and time for future meetings. And that's it.
Thank you. Thank you for those comments and clarifications. Mr. Heckel, would you like to respond to this characterization and tell us how you feel that you are complying with our order?
Yes, hello, good afternoon, Chair LaHood, members of the Compliance Committee. So just to kind of recap and respond to Anonymous's characterization. So the background of this is, as he said, relates to requests from 2019, which were at the time they were made for then future upcoming meetings of the mayor. And so we had withheld, based on advice of the city attorney and some internal consulting, we withheld the entirety of those entries at the time and cited the security procedures exemption of PRA 6254F, as well as the we had referred to the Times Mirror Company versus Superior Court case in the context of this dispute with Anonymous, which related to calendars of the governor that were withheld for, among other reasons, security reasons. So just to give the context for this and why security procedures are relevant, the mayor's meetings are all attended and safeguarded by an SFPD detail that is provided for every single one of the mayor's official meetings. And so to ensure the integrity of those procedures, the detail, the planning of that detail, and to avoid any disruptions or risks to the safety of the mayor or the detail, our view was that it would be too risky to disclose the entirety of the meetings. But then following the back and forth at the task force hearing and the issuance of the determination, we sort of went back to come up with a way to provide information with minimal redactions as requested. And so we consulted with the city attorney, and you'll see on page 276 of the file, we basically proposed a system where we would provide, generally we would provide information regarding the upcoming meetings and the calendar entries, but redact the date, time, and location for those meetings, but provide, we would provide the description of the meeting, the attendees, and other information. And so we're really just withholding the logistical particulars of the meeting, which really go right to the heart of the security exemption. Despite what Anonymous says, there's only a few places where the mayor holds meetings, right? We all know where the mayor's office is. It's a public place, at least in pre-COVID times, right? So to give away the date and time is giving away the whole store, right? That's the whole point of the security exemption. So we're not going to give that information. We've minimally redacted that. And as a matter of practice, we have provided future entries in response to some of Anonymous's more recent requests for 2021 future calendar entries, and we went back and provided the old October 2019 entries, which are no longer future, but we did provide those. So we believe we've complied, but we can address further questions you have or concerns that Anonymous has.
Mr. Heckel, I have a question. So you said there are only a few places where the mayor holds meetings, and in many, many cases that happens at City Hall. If that is the case, what is the reason for not saying that the mayor is having a meeting at City Hall? And if the police are already there providing protective services, it almost seems that the date and time is being withheld to protect the people meeting with the mayor rather than the mayor. How does not saying that there's a meeting at City Hall, or how would it be more safe for the mayor not to say that there's a meeting happening at City Hall when the mayor probably is at City Hall?
So, it's not in every case, right? But there's a limited number of possible locations where the meeting is held, and we think that is you know, the when and the where is exactly the type of logistical information which goes to the heart of the security exemption, where, you know, we don't want SFPD's procedures to be jeopardized, and we don't want the meetings to be disrupted by giving away the information of where the meeting's going to be and precisely when the meeting's going to be. So we're giving him all the other information, which is, you know, consistent with minimal redaction and providing him the substance of the meeting.
So when you say disrupted, is that beyond matters of safety? Is this people being disruptive in terms of, what do you mean by disruptive?
I mean, in terms of safety, of course, but I mean, it could be any number of types of disruptions. But what we're concerned with under the security procedures exemption is the security detail that's provided by SFPD and sort of the planning that goes into that. And there are officers in place, and it would kind of make their jobs harder if, you know, the mayor's kind of exact whereabouts and precise, precise location at precise times for precise meetings that aren't otherwise publicly announced, are known in advance to people who, I don't know, might seek to disrupt the meeting in some way or cause some kind of risk to the security of those present and the mayor and the police.
Thank you. Members, do you have questions for the petitioner or the respondent?
I have a question for the respondent. So when, just to get at this a little bit more in terms of the kind of variability of the mayor's whereabouts, and kind of picking up on this thread of that if the mayor is mostly at City Hall and meeting, then is it really a security issue to say that the mayor is meeting at City Hall? When you say that there are only a few places that the mayor holds meetings, could you be more specific? Are you really saying like one or two, or do you mean like half a dozen? I mean, how many locations are being redacted when you do the place redaction in the document?
Well, I mean, I don't know the exact number of places, but I mean, it's not like there's some secret list of locations, right? I mean, there's the mayor's office. Sometimes meetings are held there. There could be meetings in other locations, but as a matter of practice, I think Anonymous was saying, well, give us the dates and times, and then that's enough, which to me sounds crazy, because then it's pretty, you have kind of a narrow list of possible places to pinpoint where the meetings are, which then, gives up the whole information that we're trying to protect for safety purposes, and renders the security procedures exemption kind of ineffective.
Thank you.
This is Member Wong. I have a question for the petitioner. I was wondering what exactly you've received thus far then. Have you received all the details about the meetings outside of date, time, and location?
Hello?
We can barely hear you. Could you speak again?
Can you hear me now? Am I unmuted?
You are unmuted. It's just the volume went down.
Oh, okay. I'll try to speak up. I think I was asked what has been released so far. So there's two different answers. So to the October 2019, which is now long in the past, they have given a daily summary. They should not give that. I have asked for individual entries, and you've already ruled on this matter in the past. On the part where they said, they gave for some sample of future calendars, they have given me the subject line, and basically the attendees are not in Outlook as separate attendees, but they're sometimes described as part of the body or subject line itself. And then they have withheld the dates, time, lines, the location, and I believe, and Mr. Heckle should correct me because I don't have it in front of me, the recurrence field as well. Oh, and they've also redacted the phone numbers of city staff, but that's not being challenged. That's personal privacy.
Okay.
Sorry, did anything I say get heard?
Yes.
I don't know if I'm being heard. Okay.
Yes, you were heard. Thank you. Members, do we have other questions, or do you want to discuss things amongst ourselves?
I don't have further questions for the petitioner or the respondent.
Okay. Member neighbors, do you have any other questions, or does anyone have a proposal for what you think we should do at this point in terms of referring? What do we have to say in sending this back to the task force?
This is Member Wong. So I think what the task force has ruled on has not been complied with. I think that's pretty clear, and so I think that's the main summary of what I would pass on. I would give the details of what has been shared thus far, but I think certainly at the very least, Anonymous should be receiving the individual entries rather than a daily summary, as well as like the actual attendees rather than just a group or an email list of the people who are attending these meetings.
I would agree with that. I also, it seems to me that, that perhaps even if date and time are not provided, in a situation where the mayor is meeting with people at City Hall, I question whether, and I understand if a meeting is happening at a specific location where security is more challenging, but security is provided quite consistently at City Hall on a daily basis. And not to be able to say that a meeting is happening sometime in a particular week at City Hall, I wonder how necessary that is, but that's just some thoughts on that. But it seems that we should send this back to the task force with our thoughts on this, specifically on the providing individual descriptions and not summaries on past calendars, and then sending back to the task force for discussion on whether withholding date, time, location, and recurrence is appropriate or excessive. Do we have since we should take public comment after we have a motion? Member Wong, did you want to make a motion to that effect?
Sure. Yeah, I'll make a motion to send back to the full task force with our recommendations and advisement that there has not been compliance, and that we believe that individual entries as well as attendees should be shared, and to have the full task force deliberate on whether or not dates, times, locations, recurrence should be or is in excess in terms of redactions.
Okay, that's a lengthy motion. Do you want to repeat that?
Sure. Yes.
All right. Send back to the task force with the recommendation that there has not been compliance with the request from the petitioner.
Yep. And that we believe individual entries and attendees should be shared, and for the task force, the full task force, to decide whether date, time, location, and recurrence being withheld are excessive.
And do I have a
Excuse me,
second to that motion? Do I have a second to the motion?
Member Neighbors, I think you are on mute.
I second. This is Member Neighbors. I second.
Okay, thank you. So we have a second. We're going to open this motion up for public comment from members of the public who are not party to the case. Would any members of the public like to make comment on this matter?
Yes, Madam Chair. My name is Winston Hillier. I'd like to make a comment.
Okay, one moment. We're going to line people up. We have Mr. Hillier. Is there anyone else who wishes to make public comment on this motion? I'm not hearing anyone else. Mr. Hillier, as soon as Ms. Leger gives you the timer, you can speak, and then I will ask one more time after Mr. Hillier is done in case anyone was having trouble unmuting their line.
Mr. Hillier, are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. Thank you, Madam Chair. I think that what's really driving the overbearing security concerns with the mayor's office, it really has to do with the war on terror, and not to hijack this agenda item to back up my own private agenda, but approximately 30,000 people in this city right now are subject to orders for involuntary mental health treatment that are long-term, and that's over 3% of the population. It's basically, we've got a totalitarian government over this 3% of the population within a democratic society, and that's very hard to sustain that boundary between the people who are subject to totalitarian government and the rest. And if you think that the Constitution means anything at all, and if you think that the United States Supreme Court is anything else than a bunch of randomly chosen people issuing random opinions, then you know that, first of all, these orders are non-constitutional, and they are protected, they are immunized from challenge by the fact that the patients are not summoned to the hearings. The court will say to them, if they go to the courthouse, that there are no records, there are no cases, there are no orders, and so they have no way of challenging them when they're clearly all opposed to, they're all challengeable under good law, under United States Supreme Court precedent. And that in itself is enough to drive people to extremes. And I think that is why the mayor is so afraid of letting any information leak out to the public as to her whereabouts or her doings. It's because she is basically the mayor of a totalitarian state within an ostensibly democratic one. And I think that, Sunshine Ordinance aside, you're not going to be very successful in fighting this until you address the root cause. Back to you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Do we have any other members of the public who are not party to this case who would like to make public comment on this motion? I'm going to give it one last call. If you need to unmute yourself, press *6. I am not hearing anyone try to make public comment at this time. Ms. Leger, if you could please call roll.
Member Wong?
Aye.
Member Wong, aye. Member Neighbors?
Aye.
Member Neighbors, aye. Chair LaHood?
Aye.
Chair LaHood, aye. Motion to send back to the task force with the recommendation that there have not been compliance with the request from the petitioner, and that the committee believes individual entries and attendees should be shared for the task force to decide whether the date, time, location, or occurrence being withheld are excessive. Did I get that, Member Wong?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone who participated in this matter. We're moving on to the next item. Please call the next item.
Okay, 1 second. Item number 5, file number 19048, hearing on the status of the order of determination. Complaint filed by Justin Barker against the San Francisco Zoo for violating Administrative Code Section 6721 and 6727, California Government Code 6253, California Business and Professions Code 4857 by failing to provide requested records in a timely and or complete manner.
Okay, I'd like to first ask, are the petitioner and the respondent here for this matter?
I'm here, Justin Barker, the petitioner.
Okay, is the respondent or another representative here? Is there anyone here from the zoo or the Zoological Society or anyone else from the city here to speak on behalf of the respondent? Okay, so we have the petitioner here. Thank you for being here. A brief summary on the case, on this case. Mr. Barker's request. This is about Mr. Barker's request for information regarding the zoo, and the task force found, which is operated with a memorandum of understanding with the city. The task force found that the zoo and did not comply, found in favor of the petitioner that the zoo did not respond to the request for documents in a timely and complete manner. And based on our interpretation of the memorandum of understanding, we have received a letter from Attorney Edward Poole, and it's in the packet with this agenda, that offers a different interpretation of the memorandum of understanding. And members, if you have anything to add to this, but it's sort of a brief summary. He says that because access to meetings is provided, the zoo has fulfilled its necessary obligation to providing public access. This seems contrary to what the task force found in its order of determination. So would you, and perhaps especially member neighbors, since this is the first time you're hearing this, do you have any questions for the petitioner who is here with us today?
Hi, Mr. Barker. Thank you for coming to speak to us on this matter. I reviewed the case files. I'm just, I'm wondering, you know, I think I have an understanding of what you've been provided so far. But just to make sure that I understand, can you let me know what the outstanding requests are that you have not received to date, that you are still hoping to receive?
I mean, essentially all of the documents that I've requested are still outstanding.
Okay.
There's been no attempt on the zoo's part to actually like follow through on the request, and it's just been every step of the way just trying to block any attempt to get records.
And just to verify, I've noticed that they've referred you to the Parks Department. You've made these requests with the Parks Department and been sent back to the Zoological Association. Is that correct?
That's correct. I have made requests and it just keeps getting pushed back to the zoo. And my understanding where it stood kind of in our last meeting was that the letter that was going to get sent to the Parks and Rec Department was that if the records weren't provided, that this was going to get forwarded to the Ethics Commission. So that's kind of where I thought it stood, because I think there's like no question about that the zoo's violating the laws. I think there was like in these previous meetings, there was a question of, is it actually because the zoo is contracted through Parks and Rec? Is it the Parks and Rec department? And that's why that letter, why one of your the chairs sent a letter directly to Parks and Rec. But then, I made a request through the Parks and Rec to understand why it ended up back at the zoos, in the zoos. It landed back at the zoo. So the Parks and Rec is just trying to skirt any accountability. And so I'm not really sure. I think that the zoo is accountable. It says it in the contract. Who holds them accountable is up for question. We're just now going on 2 years, more than 2 years of my initial request for records. And so that's where it sits today.
Thank you, Mr. Barker. Sorry, member neighbors, did you have any additional questions?
I had a question for you actually in terms of history of the case. Is that appropriate for me to ask now?
Yeah, actually, let me ask Member Wong. Do you have any other questions for Mr. Barker, or should we have the committee have a discussion?
I don't have any questions for Mr. Barker.
Okay. So yes, please.
So it's so interesting to me that the argument that around the lease agreement predating the Sunshine Ordinance, and I was wondering if there's been a precedent before where it's been established that is the Sunshine Ordinance. There's no non-grandfather clause. I guess it would be whether or not the Sunshine Ordinance was in effect when a given document was agreed to. The Sunshine Ordinance now is in effect and pertains to all past documents, or has there been some other finding with that in the past, if you know?
This is one of the challenges of this case. And I think, as Mr. Barker explained, we've gone back and forth on this over, both full task force hearings and in committee sessions. And, I think an important, I'm looking back to my notes, an important piece to in terms of what the Memorandum of Understanding does. Now I need to find this.
I have the section 16.2. It'd be helpful to read that.
Sure. I'm looking for something that I had in my notes, and
Okay.
Well, it's interesting because even though they've said that it doesn't apply, it does say in the lease agreement that the California Public Records Act applies, right? So that's still in the lease. So I'm not quite understanding their argument, and I'm not understanding their argument around privacy of the animals as patients, because also even given the documentation they sent for that. That pertains only to veterinarians, not to the Zoological Association, and to at least 2 or maybe more of the stipulations of when a veterinarian can disclose that information are in play in this case. Right? One is per records request, and another is at the order of the zoo.
Yeah.
So they could make that order, right?
Yeah. Well, and actually, Mr. Barker was correct. I was thinking about section 16.2 of the agreement, which says the San Francisco Zoological Society shall provide public access to the information concerning the operation of the zoo to the same extent that such information would have been available to the public pursuant to local ordinances if the department had continued to operate the zoo in the same manner as it did prior to the date of this agreement. And if the city were in charge, it would be subject to the Sunshine Ordinance. And that's how we've interpreted this. And I don't see how anything has changed and how just giving public access to meetings would satisfy the Sunshine Ordinance.
Yeah.
this is Member Wong. It certainly does not, and that is why we have two different articles in the Sunshine Ordinance: one for public access to meetings and one for public access to records.
Right. So it sounds like we are pretty much in agreement on this. Would one of you like to make a motion on this matter and our recommendation to the task force? And actually, just to speak to something that Mr. Barker mentioned, that we sent a letter, and the reason it comes back to committee is because we are not sure what kind of response we are going to receive, and we use the committees to assess the next steps before referring back to the task force, because our time as a full task force is limited. And even though I know it often takes a little bit longer with for petitioners in terms of the overall flow of cases, it can help things move along a little faster. So, who would like to make a motion?
I believe that I move to refer that our committee finds that the order of determination has not been met, and the zoo is out of compliance, and so the case should be returned to the full committee for referral for noncompliance for action. Is that correct?
And would we recommend that this then be referred to ethics for continued violation?
Yes, I would. I mean, I guess, yeah. Should we put that in there with a recommendation to refer to ethics, to the ethics committee?
Okay. Do we have a second on this motion, or any other modifications?
I was going to say, I don't know if we want to be a little bit more general about our escalation path, since we have options for.
I would say we could. There are other options.
We're just recommending.
So what? I guess what? What is the second on the motion requesting a revision, and does the maker of the motion agree, or how do you wish to proceed?
Are you requesting that we drop the recommendation for escalation to the ethics commission, or that we change it in some other way?
My recommendation would be that we make a recommendation to escalate without specifically mentioning the Ethics Commission.
So through an appropriate channel.
Sure.
Okay. I agree.
Okay, then I will second that motion.
And Ms. Leger, do you have a clear wording on that, or do you need us to restate the motion? Okay.
Hang on. Moved by member neighbors that the Compliance and Amendments Committee has determined that the order of determination has not been met, and recommends to refer the matter to the Sunshine Task Force with a recommendation for escalation. That's what I have. Is that correct? Okay. Is that how you guys see it?
Yes.
Okay.
So, and seconded by Member Wong.
Wong, correct.
Yeah. And we would like to open this up for public comment. Any members of the public who are not party to this case who wish to make public comment. Would anyone like to comment on this case?
Yes.
Okay. I heard the first speaker. We're gonna make a queue. Is there anyone else wishing to make public comment? Okay, it sounds like we may just have one person, but I will ask again after the first speaker has completed in case anyone was having trouble unmuting their line. Again, to mute and unmute, press *6. First speaker, if you could just hold on one moment, and Ms. Leger will give you the signal when she's ready with the timer.
Okay. Mr. Warfield, are you ready?
I am.
Go ahead, sir.
This is Peter Warfield, Executive Director of Library Users Association. We can be reached at libraryusers2004 @yahoo.com. We can be reached by U.S. Postal Service at P.O. Box 170544, San Francisco, California 94117-0544. First of all, with respect to the motion, there is only, as far as I know, a very limited group of activities that you can suggest for escalation. And I don't know that escalation is clear as to what it means. Does it mean more hearings, more discussions, more delay? What does it mean? Seems to me that it ought to be a little bit clearer what is meant. Sounds like you intend to mean that it should go outside the Sunshine Task Force to one of the agencies that's specifically mentioned in the ordinance for sending matters for, shall we say, enforcement. Second, I was unable to hear most of this hearing, and I was not able to make public comment because I couldn't hear the last part, or most of the last part of the previous hearing, because the supervisors were meeting, and just at that time, public comment came up. And so your conflict, the conflicting timing of your meeting with the major city legislative body caused me to be able to, not only not to be able to hear, but not even to be able to comment on one of these things. Again, with respect to your motion, I'm glad that you're finding a violation. I'm glad that you are sending it for, if you like, enforcement. I think that's very valuable and very important, even if you don't think that the enforcement is very strong or very effective. It's important to do what you can do, and it's also useful for those who are seeing what's going on to see how resistant various agencies might be versus various agencies being more accommodating to your orders of determination. I hope that your order of determination is clear, or your
20 seconds, sir.
Clear, are always clear as possible as to what the reasoning is, and so on and so forth. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Last call. Is there anyone else wishing to make public comment on this matter? Seeing none, members, are we ready to vote? Please call for the vote.
Member Neighbors?
Aye.
Member Neighbors, aye. Member Wong?
Aye.
Member Wong, aye. Chair LaHood?
Aye.
Chair LaHood, aye. I will restate the motion to move that the Compliance and Amendments Committee has determined that the order of determination has not been met, and recommend to refer to the Sunshine Task Force and with a recommendation for escalation.
Thank you.
We all set?
Yes, we are all set. Please call the next item.
Item number 6, file number 19092, hearing on the status of the order of determination. Complaint filed by Justin Barker against the San Francisco Zoo for violating Administrative Code Section 6721 and 6727 by failing to respond to an immediate disclosure request in a timely and or complete manner, and failing to provide justification for withholding of records.
Okay, if this sounds similar to the last case, it is. I believe, Mr. Barker, you are still here with us?
I am.
Okay. And just as formality, is anyone here, is the respondent here, or anyone representing the respondent on this item? Okay, I'd like to ask Mr. Barker, do you, is there anything that you would like to point out to us that distinguishes this case from the one we just discussed?
I mean, this is essentially like when you found your initial order of determination. I sent a more detailed request for for documents, assuming the zoo would be like, oh, we need to follow the law. We found that there was an order that passed and they didn't. So essentially, this is the same exact issue, but this one involves a larger request. And if I would have known what the process was like, I would have never made 2 requests. But essentially they're the same thing. So I think there'd been conversation in previous meetings that that this would, however it's escalated, would just be combined into one case somehow.
So thank you. Members, do we have any further questions for Mr. Barker, or do you know how you'd like to proceed at this time?
I would like to make a motion to again send back to the full task force again for escalation as they so decide.
Due to non-compliance.
Correct.
Okay, a return to the task force for escalation with the recommendation for a referral to ethics. Is that correct?
I didn't specify ethics. I think
okay.
It's just based on what they decide, and specifically for non-compliance, the order of determination.
Do we have a second or any request for modification on the motion?
I second.
Okay. I'd like to ask for public comment on this motion, which is very similar to the one we had for the previous item. Are there any members of the public who wish to make public comment at this time?
Yes.
Okay, I heard the first speaker. Is there anyone else who would like to make public comment on this motion? Hearing none, if you could just wait one moment. When Ms. Leger has the timer ready, she will give you the signal when you may begin.
Mr. Warfield, you ready?
Yes.
Go ahead, sir.
Okay, starting the timer. This is Peter Warfield, Executive Director of Library Users Association. We can be reached at libraryusers2004@yahoo.com. Again, libraryusers2004@yahoo.com. That never seems to get into the minutes. We can also be reached by mail at P.O. Box 170544, San Francisco, California, 94117-0544. And of course, if we were in a real meeting, in a real person meeting, folks could actually come up to each other and say, oh, that was very interesting, or you raised an interesting point, or your case was interesting, and so on. We have no role in this case. We're not familiar with this case, but we have heard the limited discussion that you had. As I said, in an in-person meeting, people could go up to each other and chat about what was going on and get in touch with each other that way. That's one of the reasons why I give the contact information, because that's something that's completely lost with virtual meetings. With respect to your motion, again, it would really be helpful if you might respect folks who make comment or their ideas by giving them and the public and the complainant perhaps a reason, some reasoning why you chose not to go with this, but rather to go with that, and so on. It doesn't have to be lengthy. It doesn't have to be anything at all, of course. Now, there's another piece that's missing from your determination, and my understanding, I don't have the Sunshine Ordinance in front of me, my understanding is that a representative authorized by the respondent has to be present at all hearings. You certainly require that of the complainants, which I believe is unnecessary on the part of complainants, but I believe the law says that you have to have representation by the respondent, and I understand from what I heard there is no respondent here today. I think that should at least be communicated to the full task force, and I certainly think that you should.
30 seconds, sir.
And I certainly think that you should include that or have it as a separate motion to find them in violation for that. They're ignoring what the order of determination says, and then they're violating, I believe, the law, and I'm sure you have folks that can look it up immediately. They're violating the law again by not even bothering to show up. They're thumbing their nose at you, or worse. They're showing their contempt for the whole process.
Your time is up, sir.
Not showing up. I think that should be included in your motion. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else wishing to make public comment on this matter? Seeing none, members, would you like to amend our recommendation, even though we cannot find a violation because we are a committee, but recommend that the task force find violation in this case? And I suppose the question is, since this refers to this case and the previous one, should we make a separate motion that recommends that the task force look into the continued non-compliance with the Sunshine Ordinance by the zoo for not sending representatives to this? And I mean, it's happened in previous hearings, but I guess we can speak specifically to this hearing. Should we? Do you think we should amend this motion or make a separate motion?
I think we can make a separate motion as it applies to both cases.
Okay.
And I think the section is, if I'm not, or correct me if I'm wrong, it's 6721E, I believe.
I mean, I have it open. Hang on. 67.
I think there's also one more section as well that requires sending a qualified representative.
Yes, although I suppose if there's no representative, adding that there's no qualified representative, I mean, we can say both. Both are true. Why don't let's take care of the motion that we have on the table first, if we're going to be doing a second motion. So we've had public comment on our first motion. It sounds like there are no changes to it. So we have our first, we have our second. Ms. Leger, if you could please call for the vote.
Yes. Member Wong?
Aye.
Member Wong, aye. Member Neighbors?
Aye.
Member Neighbors, aye. Chair LaHood?
Aye.
Chair LaHood, aye. The motion to return the matter back to the task force for escalation and non-compliance of the order of determination.
Thank you. Now let's talk about this motion regarding both of these cases that we'd like to make. And Member Wong, did you verify that? I'm looking here in the numbers, and
I believe it is, yes, 6720.21E.
Okay. So would you like to make that motion?
Sure. I will make a motion to recommend to the full task force to find it's the zoo, the San Francisco Zoological Society, in violation of Sunshine Ordinance Section 67.21E for not sending an authorized representative to the hearing.
Okay. Do we have a second?
Yeah, I second.
Okay. I would like to open this new motion up to public comment.
Hey.
Oops, sorry. Go ahead.
Hang on just a second. I got to make sure that I got this right. Sorry, this is just, I just want to make sure I got it right. All right. I'm good.
Okay.
Yes.
So I heard one speaker who would like to make public comment. Is there anyone else who would like to make public comment? We'll create a queue before we take public comment.
Yes, anonymous, please.
Okay. So we have first speaker, anonymous. Anyone else wishing to make public comment? No. Okay. Ms. Leger, when you're ready with the timer, please go ahead.
Okay, who's our first speaker, please?
I believe it is I.
All right. Mr. Warfield, go ahead.
This is, again, Peter Warfield, Executive Director of Library Users Association. We can be reached at libraryusers2004@yahoo.com and also by mail at P.O. Box 170544, San Francisco, California 94117-0544. So first of all, members, thank you for all the efforts generally that you're putting in, and in particular on this matter. I don't think, as I said earlier, that there are even technical or minor violations. In this case, it sounds like there's even more of a pattern of contempt for your process and your body and the law. And that means the public. And what you're doing here is not just responding to a specific complaint, whether one thinks it's important or not, but you're also standing up for the public, for all the rest of us, and all the other people that you can't see who are part of the public, who have a right to open government, and certainly contracts that have been signed and so on and so forth that involve money. So thank you very much for making this motion, and although we have no personal or other connection with this case, we certainly support it and support you in this, and thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll be ready for the second speaker in just a moment.
Sure.
Are you ready, sir?
I am.
This is public comment?
Yes, this is for public comment. May I begin?
Okay. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you.
Talk. You want to do it?
Hello.
Okay.
Hello. Someone is unmuted, or someone is unmuted. Who needs to
Okay, hold on. Let's stop the clock. If everyone anonymous is making public comment on this matter, if there's someone else who would like to make public comment after that, that's fine. But in the meantime, please mute yourselves. Press *6 to mute. Ms. Leger, if you could please restart the timer. Thank you.
I did that. Anonymous, are you ready?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much. This was actually just a point of question or clarification. I was wondering, and maybe it should be part of your motion, are you finding the violation because they're not at today's hearing, because they weren't at the original hearing, or both? And the reason I ask this is oftentimes city respondents don't come to a committee hearing, but they will come to the full task force hearing, and only the violation is found for the full task force hearing. And I would actually be very interested in whether this committee believes respondents are required to show up to every hearing, because I'll definitely want to know that for my own complaint. So if you would like, I would love to hear a clarification. Thank you very much.
Is there anyone else wishing to make public comment on this motion? Seeing none, I believe in this particular case we've seen a pattern, and not having gone back to identify exactly which meetings the respondent did or did not attend. We know they were not at this one, and I think that's why we were referring specifically to this meeting. And Ms. Leger, I don't believe did we receive any advance notice that there would not be attendance?
No, I did not receive notice. I specifically emailed Tanya Peterson, I believe her name is. She is the chair of the Zoological Society, and she would be the person to delegate that someone appear if she can't do it personally. We have at previous hearings, Joe Fitting of the Zoological Society has appeared. The that's all I can recall from the zoo, who's made an effort to be here.
Right. Member Wong, yes. Oh, I believe you're on mute.
Yeah. So I guess I'm taking maybe a little bit of liberty in like my reading of section 6721E, but it does say that an authorized representative of the custodian of the public records requested shall attend any hearing and explain the basis for its decision to withhold the records requested. So I believe it would apply to both these two the two hearings on these two cases, as well as the pattern that Chair LaHood mentions.
I would agree with that. Any further discussion from committee members, or are we ready to vote on this? Okay.
I agree, and I'm ready to vote.
Okay. Ms. Leger, we are, please call for the vote.
Member Wong?
Aye.
Member Wong, aye. Member Neighbors?
Aye.
Member Neighbors, aye. Chair LaHood?
Aye.
Chair LaHood, aye. The motion to recommend to the task force to find the Zoological Society in violation of 6721E for not sending a representative to the hearing.
Thank you. I believe we are ready for the next item.
Item number 7, file number 20068, complaint filed by James Chafee against the Library Commission for allegedly violating Administrative Code Section 6714 by failing to make audio recordings available on the website, 6721 by failing to respond to a records request in a timely manner, and 6729 by failing to maintain the Library Commission website. You and I had a conversation today about Mr. Chafee. I did send him the email that I discussed with you, inviting him
hold on. Before you say that, I'd like to ask, is the petitioner at this committee meeting? Mr. Chafee, are you on the line? Is anyone from, is the respondent here or anyone representing the respondent on the line?
Yes, Margot Shaw with the San Francisco Public Library.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Leger, if you would like to tell us what you know about Mr. Chafee from your communication with him today, this would be a good time.
Okay. As I reported earlier to Chair LaHood, Mr. Chafee sent me an email, which is the first time I've seen him ever provide an email in this matter, saying that he had not received the papers in a timely manner, announcing that his case was going to be heard at the today's hearing, and he would have liked more time. And so I communicated that to Chair LaHood, and since Mr. Chafee had said he didn't have enough time, I welcomed him to ask for a postponement. There would be no penalty. This wouldn't even have to be his first one because he didn't have enough time. And that's where I left it. I emailed him and I have not heard back from him.
Yeah. And thank you for giving us. Please.
I also want to add that Mr. Chafee did not provide in any of his papers an email. And I did send him a notice that the hearing would take place. And when I was preparing the records for today's hearing to be uploaded, I sent him a copy of all the materials that would have been heard in his case. And I sent a copy of them by email to the library.
Okay. Just thank you for those details. Just to clarify, when the complaint was submitted, it was a mailing address was provided, but not a phone number or an email. So these communications were materials that were sent to him were sent by U.S. Postal Service. Right.
Correct.
Okay. And so he said that he did not receive them. He said by email that he had not received them with enough advance warning. And when you replied by email, unfortunately, because we did not get a response to the email, we did not know whether Mr. Chafee might appear this evening, which is why we did not move it from the agenda. I am inclined to say, because of the delay with the mail, I think we should postpone this hearing this item to the next meeting. And I apologize to the respondent. We did not know whether Mr. Chafee intended to show up this evening. We appreciate your we appreciate you appearing today, and we hope you will be able to join us when we are next able to put this item on the agenda. Sorry, yes?
No, just thank you so much. And just, I appreciate you letting me know that. Thanks.
Yeah. So members, do we any other questions or concerns about this, or can we just, to the call of the chair, postpone to a future hearing?
Yes.
Okay. That's what we will do. And I think we don't need to vote on that. So, Ms. Leger, if you could please call the next item.
Will you take public comment?
There was no motion.
It's an item on the agenda, and you should have public comment on every item on the agenda.
You know what? We will take public. I appreciate your request. We're going to line up a queue. It sounds like there's at least one person who would like to make public comment on this item on the agenda. Would anyone else like to make public comment on this item?
Sure, anonymous, please.
Okay. Cheryl, Ms. Leger, when you are ready with the timer, please let our speakers know.
Okay, so who is the first speaker? Is that Mr. Warfield?
Yes, I believe it was.
Okay. Mr. Warfield, are you ready?
Yes, I am.
Go ahead, sir.
This is Peter Warfield again, for Executive Director of Library Users Association. We can be reached at libraryusers2004@yahoo.com, and also by U.S. Postal Service, P.O. Box 170544, San Francisco, California, 94117-0544. Once again, if this were a real meeting, we could go up to somebody could come up to us, anybody in the room, anybody listening, any of the parties, and so on. That's not possible with a virtual meeting, especially by phone, and that's why I give the contact information. I was a little bit troubled by what I heard being discussed, and it actually goes to a much larger issue in our society in general, and in particular with respect to what's going on with COVID. It sounded to me as though you were faulting the complainant for communicating with you by United States Postal Service. Does that make somebody's status lower? Does that make somebody's complaint less important? Does that make their concern about the timeliness and the timing of communication less valid? I heard that, well, because he didn't have email and because this was the first time we heard from him by email, maybe U.S. Postal Service or whatever method he used is the way that he wanted to use communication with the Sunshine Task Force. And I believe he's entitled to that. When you go to the Sunshine Task Force, when you go to the Sunshine Ordinance, that's one of the things that's very clear from the start. A complaint can be filed, and the first thing is, a request for information can be filed and so on, but I believe that it's clear any way that you have that's reasonable and standard for communication is valid and should be treated with the same respect as any other communication, and people shouldn't be sort of cast aside or denigrated in any way for communicating by whatever means is available to them or convenient for them for whatever reason. If that's the way he wants to communicate, that's fine. That's actually one of the biggest problems with what's going on with open government.
20 seconds, sir.
There's been a gigantic clanging down of a gate where people can no longer visit offices. They can no longer make phone calls because nobody's in the office, and that's a very severe barrier to access to open government, and it shouldn't be
Your time is up,
ignored.
sir.
It's a big issue. Thank you.
I just want to provide some clarification. Identifying that communication was made by U.S. Postal Service was, and perhaps I wasn't specific with this, I think there are known delays with the Postal Service these days, and that was the comment regarding that because this was our method of communication, there was not a guarantee that the materials were delivered on time. We found out from the petitioner that he did not receive them in a timely manner, which is why we were recommending to move them to a future meeting. We'll take I believe Anonymous is next in line for public comment.
Thank you very much. Let me know when I may begin.
You may begin.
Thank you. I actually wanted to thank the committee for not having a bias against people who were communicating by USPS, and it doesn't seem like you do. Until very recently, I did not know. I live in a complete, 24/7 techie world, and that's how I communicate. And I didn't even understand that sometimes people who have an email address only have access to that email address for certain hours a day or certain days a week. And so it's possible, even though he has an email address and he was able to communicate this one time with you all using that email, possible he just won't have access to that email address for another few days or maybe, after this hearing is done. So I just wanted to thank the committee for not having apparently any bias when someone is using, say, two forms of communication, and continuing the matter is exactly right. Thank you.
Are there any other members of the public wishing to comment on this agenda item?
Yes, Madam Chair. My name is Winship Hillier. I'd like to comment.
Okay, one moment, please. Ms. Leger will give you the timer signal when she is ready.
Are you ready, Mr. Hillier?
I'm ready.
Go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to point out that, the Postal Service has changed a lot in the last few years. They've had declining volume, they've got a shrinking business model, and they've had to cut back service. Put my post office box, I can no longer pick it up on Saturday. It now takes, on average, 3 days for a letter to get across town even. And, the Sunshine Ordinance was formulated in the 90s. And things were a lot different then. And there's now a potential workaround, a path of evasion, both the Sunshine Ordinance and the Brown Act, whereby notice is required 72 hours in advance of holding a meeting. But the notice, there's no longer a physical place to post the notice. It can be posted on the internet. But if somebody requests that an agenda packet be sent to them through Government Code 54.954.1, Subdivision A. That's only when it's sent out to the members of the legislative body, or posted, whichever is first. So it'll be when it's sent out to the members of the legislative body. If somebody requests through that method, and then the legislative body sends them an agenda through the mail, it's not going to get there until the day of the meeting, if you're lucky. It could be even later than that. It's no longer, 72 hours is no longer enough notice for the U.S. mail, for the U.S. Postal Service. And so maybe that window needs to be expanded, or there needs to be some language in there about for Postal Service requesters, it needs to be a longer period or something like that. I know there's not an analog to 54.954.1 in the Sunshine Ordinance, so that may be a potential flaw, but I wanted to point that out. Back to you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Is there anyone else wishing to make public comment on this agenda item? Seeing no further public comment, please call the next item.
The next item, or the next several items, are complaints filed by Mr. Hartz against Clerk of the Board Angela Cavijo and President Norman Yee. The chair intends to consider a request for consolidation of 19105, 19055, 19059. Hang on a second.
Forgive me. I thought that we had. I thought that in the agenda changes, we had said. I thought that we weren't going to be discussing.
We're not going to be discussing these.
Yeah,
I know, but that we're not going to be discussing these cases, but they are next on the agenda. So okay. I just wanted to read into the record the matters that we are not going to be hearing.
Yes, and actually, since there was a request for that, would it be helpful to read them verbatim?
Yes, I can do that for sure. Would you like me to do that?
Since there are a lot, if you want to, if you would like help with that, we could help. Or if you just want to go straight through and read them, I'll leave that to you.
I think it's required. All you need to do is list the file numbers and state that have been withdrawn by the complainant.
Okay, Victor.
Yes.
I think it would be helpful for the public if you would read what is being eliminated.
And
you're the Sunshine Task Force, after all.
One moment, please.
Okay, so would you like me to read them? Chair LaHood? I'll just read the numbers.
No, it's
up to you.
Yeah. You know what? They are, I don't think they're that long. Let's read them in.
All right.
Please read them in. Thank you.
The chair intends to consider a request for consolidation of file numbers 19050, 19055, and 19059. Item number 8, file number 19050, complaint filed by Ray Hartz against Angela Cavijo, Clerk of the Board of Supervisors, for allegedly violating Administrative Code Section 6715D by failing to place his 150-word summaries as submitted to the Board of Supervisors in the minutes. Item number 9, file number 19055, complaint filed by Ray Hartz against Angela Cavijo, Clerk of the Board, for allegedly violating Administrative Code Section 6715D by failing to place his 150-word summaries in the meeting minutes. Board of Supervisors meeting May 14, 2019. File number 19059, complaint filed by Ray Hartz against Angela Cavijo, Clerk of the Board of Supervisors, for allegedly violating Administrative Code Section 6715D by failing to place his 150-word summaries in the meeting minutes. Board of Supervisors, May 21, 2019. The chair intends to consider a request to consolidate file numbers 19051, 19054, 19057. File number 19051, complaint filed by Ray Hartz against Norman Yee, President of the Board of Supervisors, for allegedly violating Administrative Code Section 6716 by failing to place his 150-word summaries in the meeting minutes of the Board of Supervisors, May 7, 2019. File number 19054, complaint filed by Ray Hartz against Norman Yee, President of the Board of Supervisors, for allegedly violating Administrative Code Section 6716 by failing to place his 150-word summaries in the meeting minutes. Board of Supervisors, meeting May 14, 2019. Item number 13, file number 19057, complaint filed by Ray Hartz against Norman Yee, President of the Board of Supervisors, for allegedly violating Administrative Code Section 6716 by failing to place his 150-word summaries in the meeting minutes. Board of Supervisors, meeting May 21, 2019. I spoke with Mr. Hartz personally today, Chair LaHood, after you and I had a discussion, and he said he wants to withdraw all those complaints and close them. That was his decision.
Okay, so to withdraw and close all of these complaints. Okay, so that yes. That is good to know. So we will not be discussing these items tonight or at any future meeting. Committee members, do you have any questions about this or anything to say?
No.
Okay.
No questions.
Since there were items on the agenda, but all considered together, I will allow one round of public comment on these items. Is there anyone wishing to make public comment on these items which we are not discussing today and will not be discussing in the future because the petitioner has decided to withdraw them?
Yes. And
Okay.
how many minutes are you giving? There are 6 items altogether?
No.
No.
One
we're
public
doing
comment.
One round of public comments on all of these items. I think a request beyond that is no.
Just asking.
Doing one round.
Just asking.
Yeah. Okay. I heard one person. Would anyone else like to make public comment? Okay. Ms. Leger, when you are ready with the timer, please tell our speaker.
Right. Mr. Warfield, are you ready?
Yes.
Go ahead, sir.
This is Peter Warfield, Executive Director of Library Users Association. We can be reached at libraryusers2004@yahoo.com. Also by mail at P.O. Box 170544, San Francisco, California, 94117-0544. We're not associated directly in any way with these complaints and are not familiar with them and so on and so forth. However, we are familiar with the history, and there's quite a bit of history here. Ray Hartz has worked very hard to file complaints, and over time, some of the new members may not know, but he has won many, many complaints, and against a lot of resistance, bureaucratic, administrative resistance, he has won in your Sunshine Ordinance Task Force many decisions requiring the departments that he complained against to allow him to submit 150-word summaries, as is specifically provided in the Sunshine Ordinance. It's something that he has made something of a crusade. So I have trouble believing that there is a simple story that he just wants to fold up shop and leave. You haven't asked your administrator why, or if there was any reason given. He's filed 6 complaints. The second thing to be considered here is this. I think that the Sunshine Task Force has been very, well, let's find a word, weak, and really a letdown for the public in terms of follow-up. When there are repeated violations by either a single department or by the city as a whole, I think that the Sunshine Task Force, rather than finding yet another violation, needs to recognize when, shall we say, there's a kind of an infestation, and needs to look at how it is enabling the law to function in the face of strong resistance and repeated violations.
30 seconds,
so that's
sir.
why I'm also concerned that the task force seems so quick to drop this without understanding why, from somebody who has been very committed and very concerned and working for the public to carry out an important element of the law that was put in place by voter mandate, and that this was one of the enhancements. In case the minutes are no good or you don't like them, you can put your own words into the minutes.
Your time is up,
and
sir.
That's something important, shouldn't be just dropped willy-nilly. Thank you.
Chair LaHood, you're muted.
I'm going to respond to that. We had on our agenda and we're prepared to discuss 6 different complaints. We were prepared to discuss all of these, and it was not our decision to withdraw. Sometimes petitioners withdraw. They do not have to give us a reason, for the same reason that petitioners do not have to give us a reason or any department a reason why they might be requesting particular documents. That's all I have to say on that matter. Do we have any other members of the public wishing to make public comments?
Yes, anonymous, please.
Okay.
Okay.
One moment.
Hang on.
Mm-hmm.
Hello?
Yeah, go ahead, sir.
Oh, sure. Okay. So I want to say this. It's in response to what I just heard from Mr. Warfield. I almost always agree with Mr. Warfield's very strong defense of the Sunshine Ordinance. But there's one small thing I would disagree with, which is I do think, and maybe it's not even a disagreement because maybe he's not saying they have to have one, but I do think all of us have a right to complain when we want to and not complain when we don't want to. So, it is our right to withdraw these. It is unfortunate, though, that sometimes people withdraw them because, hello? Okay.
We got you. Go ahead.
That they withdraw them because there are attacks by city officials on members of the public who make complaints. I don't know if that happened here, but that is concerning, and I know I've definitely experienced that myself. But people do have a right to drop whatever they want to, whenever they want to, for any reason or no reason. Thank you.
Are there any other members of the public wishing to make public comment at this time?
Yes, Madam Chair. My name is Winship Hillier. I'd like to comment.
Okay, one moment, and Ms. Leger will tell you when the timer. She's ready with the timer.
Go ahead, Mr. Hillier.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I do not think that the Sunshine Ordinance should pick up complaints that the plaintiffs have dropped. I think that would compromise its status as a quasi-judicial body. You're supposed to be sitting as, to some extent, impartial arbiters between plaintiffs and defendants. And so I do not think it would be appropriate for you to pick up any of these complaints or complaints like them where the plaintiffs have abandoned them. Complaints need plaintiffs to fight for them. And if the plaintiff is not willing to fight for them, I don't think it's your business to do so. Back to you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Are there any other members of the public wishing to make public comment at this time?
Yeah, I just said you might want to look into it further. I didn't say that you have to proceed.
Okay, I'm sorry, you've already had your turn. I want to see if there's anyone else who has not had a chance to speak on this last round of public comment. Thank you. Okay, hearing no additional requests for public comment, if we could please call the next item.
Item number 14, announcements, comments, questions, and future agenda items by members of the Compliance and Amendments Committee.
Members, do we have anything to discuss or bring up, or anything that came up today that you think we need to take to the full task force in some other fashion, or that you would like for us to research amongst ourselves? Okay, I'm not seeing anything at this time. Since we haven't discussed anything, I don't think there's anything to have public comment on. Please call the next item.
Item number 15, adjournment. I have 6:23.
Thank you everyone for participating today. We appreciate you being here. We know that the technical aspects of these meetings are not ideal, and we appreciate your patience with us, and thank you to our administrators for helping things run smoothly, and member neighbors, thanks for participating in your first committee meeting.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, welcome.
Thank you.
We're throwing you right into it.
Yay, love it.
All right, I am going to turn off the recording.
Okay, thanks everyone. See you next week at the full task force hearing.
Yep.
Okay, have a good week.
Bye.